Good afternoon. I am Mabel Mack, founder of the Land Change Charity. Welcome to this program, Moving Towards Carbon Neutrality, Youth of the Greater Bay Area. This is the first workshop we organized for students on carbon audit. I'd just like to mention to you, we like to celebrate the Global Youth Climate Week, which is from the 31st of October to the 4th of November this year. And this Global Youth Climate Week is organized by the Global Alliance of Universities on Climate. And Land Change Charity is the one of the co-initiator. About the program Moving Towards Carbon Neutrality, Youth of the Greater Bay Area. It is co-organized by United Front Department of Shenzhen Municipal Committee of China, Longgang United Front Department of Shenzhen Municipal Committee of China, China Shenzhen Daimei Youth, Hong Kong Land Change Charity, Macau Shenzhen Economic and Culture Promotion Association. And we are happy to have the supporting organizations. They are Environment and Ecology Bureau, Macau Environment Bureau, All China Environment Federation, Tsinghua University, Institute of Climate Change and Sustainable Development. Our guiding unit is the Ministry of Ecology and Environment, Communication and Education Center. So I'd like to thank Bank of China sponsoring this project. And today, I welcome Ms. Erica. She's going to deliver the workshop on carbon audit. Enjoy it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mabel. Thanks again for inviting me to share the topic on carbon auditing. It's my great honor. I'm Erica from HKPC. I'm now working in the carbon and ESG solutions team, and I have been working on carbon for over 2 years. Before that, I was working on green building engineering. Let's start my sharing today. Today, I'm going to go through 5 major topics. The first one will give you a brief introduction on the global climate change phenomenon. And then we will go through on the how the government react to the climate change. And then we will go into the topic of carbon audit and how to conduct it. And last but not least, I will go through about the importance of carbon audit. First of all, there are major greenhouse gas exist in the environment. The major greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. It accounts for the most, and it is usually from the burning of fossil fuels. And the second major greenhouse gas is methane. It comes from agricultural activities. And the third one, the third largest greenhouse gas exists is nitrous oxide. It is majorly from manufacturing activities. Actually, the greenhouse gas exists in the atmosphere originally. It helps to capture heat from the sun and keep the planet warm and comfortable. However, with the industrialization, more human activities undergo, and there are more greenhouse gas to trap large heat amounts within the atmosphere and causing severe temperature rise on the Earth. With global warming being more severe, the iceberg on South and North Poles melt a lot. We can see that the iceberg has melted nearly a half in the 30 years, and the poor polar bear doesn't even have place to live on it. Also, the corals as an essential habitat for the marine life has become bleached due to the temperature rise in the seawater. Besides that, the global warming brings a lot of extreme weather to the world, including Hong Kong. We have more hotter days and less colder days. which means we have a longer summertime, however, a shorter winter time. The melting ice from both poles caused more extreme rainfalls and increase in sea levels. The strongest storms since records Typhoon Mangkhut and Hato hit Hong Kong a few years ago, and which has brought a significant impact, especially a lot more flooding to the low-lying areas. And in light of the global warming situation, there are international efforts to combat the global warming issue. In 1997, the United Nations have signed a Kyoto Protocol, which has bring up a conclusion to that the responsibility of combating global warming is common but differentiated among countries. And in 2012, there is a Doha Amendment, which has set a target to reduce the carbon emission at 18% below 1990 levels. And in last year, there is a United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP26, and there are some initiatives suggested during the conference. The first one is to achieve global net zero emission by 2050 and to limit the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And second, to gradually reduce the use of coal-fired electricity without exhaust emission treatment and phase out fossil fuel subsidies. And the third one is to support energy transition in the developing countries. And the review before the end of 2022, which is close, to see if it can meet the interim target at 2030. And actually, it is quite a large breakthrough, as it is the first time to globally limit the coal-fired electricity use from fossil fuels. And in China, there are a roadmap to achieve carbon neutrality. In short term, mainland China would like to achieve the peak for the carbon dioxide emission, and by 2060, the China mainland will be carbon neutral and have fully established a green and low carbon circular economy. And when we come to the concept of carbon neutral, it means carbon emission is equal to the carbon offset. And under this framework, Hong Kong has also developed a Climate Action Plan 2050 last year. And it come up with the three major visions: zero carbon emissions, livable city, sustainable development. And under this vision, there are 4 decarbonization strategies: net zero electricity emission, energy saving and green buildings, green transportation, and waste reduction. And actually, Hong Kong, similar to mainland China, has also set some localized carbon neutral roadmap. It is targeted to achieve carbon neutral at 2050 and to meet 50% of reduction in 2035. And let's talk about carbon audit. Actually, carbon audit is a scientific means of quantifying an organization's direct and indirect greenhouse gas emissions. And Hong Kong EPD and EMSD has set up a guide to low carbon schools, which has give out some tips on conducting carbon audits and some low carbon tips in schools. Actually, the carbon audit involves 5 major steps. The first one is to define physical and operational boundaries. The second one is to identify emission source. And we have to collect data upon the emission source. And then we apply emission factors for calculation. And last, we will do some reporting and disclose the reports to some relevant stakeholders, including students or parents, etc. And more importantly, we have to conduct the carbon audit on a regular basis. When it comes to the first step, we have to define the boundaries. And the first boundary we have to define is physical boundary. It usually matches the site boundaries of the school concerned. For example, when it comes to the school building on the image on the right, we not only consider the building boundaries, but also the whole campus boundary, including some greenery aside. And talking about operational boundaries, it includes scope of emission from activities under the school's operational control, including scope 1 to scope 3. Scope 1 includes direct emissions and removal. And under direct emissions, we have combustions of fuels in stationaries and mobile source, including some generator or some vehicles. And also it includes some greenhouse gas release from equipment and system, like from the refrigerants or air conditioner equipment. And for the direct removal, it is from the assimilation of carbon dioxide into biomass through planting of additional trees. And scope 2 includes some indirect emissions related to energy consumption. It includes greenhouse gas emissions from the generation of electricity purchased from the power companies like CLP or Hong Kong Electrics. And also, we have considered the greenhouse gas emission from the generation of town gas purchased. In scope 3, it includes some other indirect emission, which are optional to include in the carbon audit calculation. And it depends on individual usage, individual activities of different entities. For example, it includes some methane gas generation at landfill in Hong Kong due to the disposal of paper waste, or some electricity used for freshwater processing by WSD and sewage processing by the drainage department. And also there are other potential emission sources, including some business travel or some carbon footprint of the purchased materials and fuels, etc. Okay, after my brief introduction, let's spend some time to try sorting the emissions into scope 1 and 3. I'll give you around 1 minute to have a sorting. No worries if you can't define the activities into group. Actually, let me do some recap. Under scope 1, it means some direct emissions. It includes fuel combustion by stationary and mobile equipment, like some private motor vehicles or Bunsen burner at your school. And also it includes some fugitive emissions, including some refrigerants or some air conditioning equipment. And also it includes some greenhouse gas removal from newly planted trees. And under scope 2, it is related to energy indirect emissions. It includes some electricity bills or meter readings, and town gas bills and meter readings. And for the last scope 3, it includes some other indirect emissions, like some purchase and recycling records of paper, or some paper bills, water bills, sorry. And based on the activities that we have identified, we have to undergo some data collection. And it includes some questionnaire or interviews or organizational information, some specific source and amount, and utility bills and records, or even some inventory of energy consuming equipment. But be careful, we have to take note on the units because it may affect the amount of greenhouse gas that we can calculate at last. After collecting the data, we have to review it to check if there are wrong data input or there are unit missings, and are there any missing data or missing periods, and maybe is there any major change in the emission source, and whether it makes sense. We have to raise out some suspicious or weird that we have spots that we have to seek for clarification. After we have collected a certain amount of data, we can find their suitable emission factor to align their activities to different emission factors. And basically, we are referring to the Hong Kong EPD guideline, but if we cannot swatch some specific emission data from that, we can also refer to the data template also issued from the EPD. And for some company-specific activities like purchase electricity or purchase town gas, we can refer to the annual reports or the sustainability reports from the company that they have indicates the emission factor. And also we can refer to some international guideline or other source available. And the carbon, when it comes to the carbon footprint calculation, actually the amount of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions is calculated by the activity data multiplied by the emission factor and the global warming potential. It can come out the carbon footprint of each activity, and after that we sum up all the carbon footprint that we have calculated to get the final carbon emission of the entity. Actually, the absolute emission is important because it is generated from the operations. And in a global perspective, we can be, there should be a matrix that each country or organization should be used. However, how can we differentiate between different situations, like between different size of schools or different area? We can use the carbon intensity indicator to do a fair comparison within similar industry or similar schools. It accounts for a lower carbon footprint while improving output. It can check whether there is a decoupling of economic output or carbon emission. Like we can, from the slide that I've shown, the left chart, it seems that School C has the most carbon emission. But however, after we have considered the number of staff or number of students, actually the capital carbon emission is the least among the free schools. After we have undergo some racial indicators, we can do a benchmarking and comparison against self and peers. We can compare the performance to the historical trend or some, is there any progress towards the target, and identify some improvement areas. And among the peers, we can know that the position of yourself in the industry and to identify the best in-class performance and practice. And it can effectively help us in bridging the gaps. And for the reporting, we can include a certain amount of data inside our report, including some description of the reporting entity, the reporting period, For example, is this a yearly carbon audit or a quarterly carbon audit? And what's the scope of the physical boundary and any exclusion? And is there any exclusion in the operational boundaries? And what is the methodologies for quantifying emissions and removals? And what is the specific greenhouse gas emission from each activity? And what is the net total emission? That's the total greenhouse gas emission emit from your organization. And is there any comparison and benchmarking among the other schools? And what are the recommendations for you to further lower the greenhouse gas emission? And whether the data is reviewed by some qualified service provider, etc. And what is it important for us to conduct carbon audit? Actually, first of all, conducting carbon audit can help us reduce the operational costs and to improve the school's image. Because if you have, you can echo with the government's suggestion to achieve carbon neutral, and you can demonstrate your environmental responsibility. And it can be it can make the stakeholders' expectations on whether the schools has conduct some low carbon or some green initiatives. Okay, I have prepared some quiz about my presentation. Maybe you can think about it. The first one is what is the year that mainland China and Hong Kong has set target to achieve carbon neutrality? The answer is 2060 and 2050. Actually, they have set some interim targets at 2030 and 2035 respectively. Question number 2. Which of the following sequence from largest to smallest regarding the source of carbon emission in Hong Kong is correct? The answer is A, from electricity generation, transport, and waste and others. The electricity generation accounts for more than 60% in Hong Kong, and among it, the buildings account for the most, which is around 90%. In view of the increase of average temperature of planet, what are the climate-related threats that Hong Kong is facing? There are 4 that are at least. Do you know which are included? The answer is C, because it does not cause a lower sea level, but a higher sea level instead. What are the main greenhouse gases? The answer is C. These 4 greenhouse gases are the major greenhouse gases occurs in Hong Kong. And now I would like to share some useful link for us to regarding the carbon audit. The first one is a practical guide on carbon audit and management. It is a guide to low carbon schools issued by the EPD. And it includes some major steps in carbon audit and also some tips on low carbon school. And the second one is the guideline to account for and report on greenhouse gas emission and removals for buildings. It was issued on 2010, but it was the latest version already, and it has give out some detailed calculation steps and some reference on the emission factors on the calculation. And here is a carbon audit template also issued by Hong Kong EPD. We can simply key in our activity data and to come up with the carbon emission calculations. And the last one is in online benchmarking tools. We can compare our performance with other similar industries. And this is the part 1 of the workshop, and there is a part 2 of the workshop coming. And in the part 2 of this workshop, we will do some hands-on exercise, and I will brief you some concept on carbon neutrality, including some carbon trading or etc. Thank you. Hello, Mabel.
Erica, thank you for the interesting talk. Can you explain here a bit more for the benefit of the student, the carbon equivalent factor? Okay, and where is the source coming from in Hong Kong side, so that the student can understand this better?
You mean the emission factors?
Yes, yes.
Actually, it comes from Hong Kong EPD guideline, and it also take reference to some international reference.
The EPD is the Hong Kong Environmental Protection Department guideline, right?
Yes. Yes, it gives some individual emission factor of each common activities that's commonly found in Hong Kong.
Thank you. One more question. So that means if we are talking about places outside Hong Kong, like mainland China or Europe or Singapore, all these places, this equivalent factor would be different, right?
Yes, it is. It better refers to some localized emission factor to have a accurate carbon emission results. I know that this may be a recording, and if there is any further questions from the students or some teachers, you may feel free to contact me. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you.